show. Today we have Tiffany Grandstaff, Graig, and Roma from New Jersey. And Graig, I'd like you to introduce yourself, and Roma, and possibly if you want to, tell us about the business you run.
Sure. Well, my name is Graig White from BeyondComics.tv. Nice to meet you, Chad. We're here in New York City in my art studio, so you can see some of the superhero stuff I create. And this is my girl over here, Roma. And
yeah, I'm from New Jersey. Actually, I'm doing medical billing currently, and I'm also like interested in all these interesting like movies and the news that you actually always like posting and running amazing blogs. So it's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the different kind of topics that you've discussed. So it's nice to meet you today.
Oh, great to have both of you here. Now, Tiffany, if you'd like to introduce yourself, give us a brief summary of the work you like to do, and even and then afterward, I'll ask all of you the type of movies that you prefer to watch if you watch any ones recently. Tiffany, introduce yourself, if you will.
Sure. I'm Tiffany Grandstaff. I work as an author. I'm mostly freelance. I do a lot of newspaper work, write content for websites, and publish ebooks. I've got a couple out myself, and working on a couple more ghost-written assignments. I usually get into movies that have a strong basis in science fiction or some kind of reality basis. I like to compare what I see in the movies with things I see in real life, and I don't really tend to need to get into fantasy too much, although usually when I do, I pick it apart.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that makes total sense. I think there's a lot of skeptics that watch movies, and they're kind of disgusted about how predictable a lot of movies are.
Absolutely.
I actually had a difficult time enjoying Lord of the Rings, mostly because of the dialogue, but it was visually pleasing. But yeah, a lot of movies have some poor writing, but I'm willing to look past that and enjoy the visuals. But for today's show, we're going to be talking about sci-fi movies in particular, and the esoteric symbols in a lot of the movies, as well as cloning experiments in them. Now, I'm pretty sure that Tiffany, you watched a movie called Artificial Intelligence. Now, Graig and Roma, have you seen that movie, Artificial Intelligence? It involved a android, I think.
Yeah, no, I saw that movie, which I thought was a very intense movie. I think it was Haley Joel Osment was in it, right?
That's correct.
And you know, it was a very heartfelt movie. I thought Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams also delved deep into the possibility and reality of, you know, the soul and consciousness potentially existing in an artificial body, and the kind of way that it makes you recognize and think about yourself. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I'm creating a new comic book called Humanobotics: Rise of the Cybernauts that deal a lot with that. And it's been a very intense kind of research that I've been doing over the years about it, especially with like Honda's Osimo, and you start to see them create these amazing autonomous working robots that combine with artificial intelligence. And if I can, I'd love to tell you a quick little story just to show you how serious it's gotten.
Sure.
A friend of mine was talking, my friend Mike was talking to this girl online. He was chatting with her, and he's like, man, I'm so excited, he said, you know, the girl's really into me, she's digging me, and I noticed something interesting about the speech pattern. So I said, ask the same question again. He was talking to her for an hour, 1 hour. He asked the same question again. She replied with the identical answer. He answered, and then he said, same question again he asked. She answered identically. And I said, dude, you're talking to a robot. You're talking to a bot, bro. You know, he didn't even realize it was just an AI program, you know, that's trying to solicit for, you know, spam or things like that. It was unbelievable just to, you know, see how far it's come that a human being can have a real conversation and be fooled and tricked into the illusion that they're talking to another person.
You know, I've heard a lot of people talk about that, where they'll have a Facebook profile, for instance, with a really attractive woman. It'll get their attention. It's almost as though it's like a psychological study on how people react and interact with other people. and it really raises the question on the ethics behind all the artificial intelligence and cloning, which I think they touch base a lot in AI, especially when they delve into the emotional factors of it.
That's exactly
true. Now, did you give us a full description or a brief summary of the story that you're working on for your comic? The Android.
Sure. Well, I mean, one of the things that I try to do, like the current comic book I have out that I draw and I co-created is called Gekido, Gekido,
okay.
And it's co-written by Brandon Wilson, the author, and he's also the co-creator. And it's that's more of like a sci-fi comic book about a ninja warrior who is kind of fighting through time, and he has this, he's ageless, but it kind of delves into the depths of, longevity and living for centuries and things like this. It's interesting, but that kind of also is one of the books we're doing currently. The other character, actually, this guy behind me, his name is Ravidactyl. We're going to be doing that, and that's about called Ravidactyl, Life Beyond Death. And that deals more in the spiritual realm. This guy over here is codenamed Justice, and he deals, again, with kind of all the conspiracy theories and all of the things that are going on in our world in reality. And then the fourth book we're doing is called Humanobotics, Rise of the Cybernauts. That's coming out probably a couple of years from now. We're still in the early stages of that, but it deals a lot with what happens, similar to Avatar in the sense of consciousness being transferred from the soul and the body into another vessel. And if that happens, or if cybernetics advance to the point where they start creating humanoids and cyborgs and things, what part of the human being is left? And will they recognize a difference between being an organic human versus a synthetic human or robot, if you will? And it's that kind of intensity that we're trying to delve into about consciousness. And I'm hoping that in all the things that I write like this, that we'll get to a real dialogue and have people thinking, what are we? And once they build these incredible androids and robotics like Honda's Asimo, which, I mean, is able to run and jump and walk, and it has touch sensors in the hands, it can grip things, and it has laser scans for eyes so they can scan distance, and facial recognition software built into the robot's eyes. It's able to identify people. So the question is, well, wait, if its eyes can see, how different does it interpret things in its brain than we, as the advancement of this technology continues? So that's one of the big things that I'm very excited and curious to hear what's going to happen, and then how are we different as humans? And it makes you question your own consciousness, your own soul, your own awareness of self. So I love to be able to push the envelope as far as we can in the hopes to get a solution that is hopefully a good one,
Exactly. That's actually a noble project, really. It makes people question reality, even question moral standards. I think the whole cloning and android themed movies, such as artificial intelligence, have definitely influenced more sci-fi movies that include cloning. Now, Tiffany, have you seen the movie Avatar? I mean, the full-length feature, or have you just seen trailers of it?
No, I've seen the whole movie. It was just recently that I've seen it. At first I thought it was a child's movie, and then I heard a lot of rave reviews about how it draws up a lot of ethical questions, and I decided to see for myself, and it was quite interesting.
Yeah, so Graig and Roma, were you at all impressed with the movie Avatar as well?
Yeah, Avatar is really cool. Yeah, you saw it? Yeah, Avatar was really cool, It's like, I really like the graphics, the way they design everything, and it was very interesting, right?
I thought that it was a beautiful fantasy-based film with incredible visuals, and it was something that was very thought-provoking. And I thought it was a very good film. What I'm surprised is, though, is that it's become the highest-grossing film of all time. That, to me, is confusing, because I don't feel the film was the greatest movie of all time. It was the highest-grossing. Maybe that's because that was when they raised ticket prices from I think it was $12 to $17.50 or something like that.
I was
Maybe that's
more
what did it.
impressed with Star Wars movie, like in my experience, and the way like they put the story behind, and the way they try to have you actually thinking about how the ending gonna happen. It's like it's very interesting. I was more impressed by Star Wars, I would say.
It warms my heart that she says that as a Star Wars fan.
Right.
But
Star Wars is definitely a iconic film. I definitely enjoyed the original three episodes of it. Of course, the George Lucas prequels were not very well received by audiences, but I mean, we can talk about Star Wars as well. Tiffany, are you familiar with the first 3 Star Wars films?
I'm not familiar with Star Wars, unfortunately. I know that kind of makes me a leper in society.
No.
I know a lot of people I love Star Wars, and from what I know of it, it does seem like it would be an amazing thing to watch if I ever had that much time. Although I don't know anything about Star Wars, I don't really find it personally surprising that Avatar did as well as it did. With it being the graphics being so amazing, and then you combine that with the fact that it really touches on something that hasn't really been touched by the movie industry. I think that alone drew people to want to watch it more.
Right.
Star Wars has a lot of staying power because it's a really great compilation of movies.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but I definitely think there's a moral to each of those movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the moral of Star Wars was to stay out of the dark side. Do good things for humanity or for the universe. And the same message was in Avatar. At least that's the message I got from Avatar, was to do good things for your neighbors and treat the land well. Basically.
Yeah, I think one of the best parts about those movies is that different interpretations you can get from watching them. If you go back and watch, you would get a whole other interpretation.
Mm-hmm. So
that's true, and also the Joseph Campbell was the original writer that George Lucas based Star Wars on, the original trilogy. And like what she was saying is that again, like with the Joseph Campbell, his book, the Hero's Journey. Journey of the Hero is an amazing kind of factor to see this in Star Wars. For you, those of you who haven't seen Star Wars yet, make sure to see the original trilogy, Episode 4, 5, and 6, not the newer ones that were made, which was the prequels. As you were saying, Chad, but the original story. I mean, to see this little simple farm boy living on a dune-like desert become this master. Jedi with powers and understandings of consciousness and,
exactly.
Staying away from the dark side, which is, basically our life's temptations, things that tempt us that we want, whether it be drugs or alcohol, whatever, that we know is going to eat us away from the inside out. Eventually, it's don't be drawn to this darkness. Go to the light side, the Force, if you will. May the Force be with you, they say, right? So now, one of the things that's interesting is that when I was like 2.5, 3 years old when I saw Star Wars when it came out, and I remember just being blown away by it, and the fact that I guess it originally was released in 1977, and that was the first movie that really spoke about cloning. They were actually speaking in the original 1977 movie about the Clone Wars, which is unbelievable that was even mentioned in a film so far back, and that now they're actually cloning. And I believe, Roma, I think you said that they officially cloned an animal in an incubation tank or something?
Yes, they did the cloning of a goat, finally.
Definitely.
So now, this is something new that is happening, and also, they're trying to clone the organs for people who have, health issues, actually, to help them out to get their health back, finally. So it's very interesting.
It's amazing. I've even seen them grow a nose and an ear on the back of, I believe it was a mouse or a rat, that they did using different genetic coding in the hopes to make a transplant for victims who were disfigured. So it's incredible how science fiction is becoming reality today.
I remember watching movies and television as a child, and I would ask my father about what was going on the screen, and know whether or not that would ever really be a possibility. And he would always mention to me that if they're saying it in the movies, that it won't be too long until it's something that you live in real life. And time again, I would notice that as I would watch particularly science fiction movies.
Right.
Wow.
Well, there's also transhumanism. Are you guys familiar with well, of course, Greg, I think you are familiar with the androids or metallic hands being attached to people. You know, like
yeah. It's the technology is amazing, and the fact that they're utilizing the elements or the fragments of the actual touch sensors that are remaining in the arm and the nerve endings, and rewiring them to the electronics so that they can feel some sense of touch in a robotic, hand replacement is just an amazing thing.
I actually think they took that idea with the human robotic hands from Star Wars.
That's right. That's right. When Luke got his hand cut off and they restitched it on with a robotic hand. Right. Very good. Yeah. And that again is in a movie from 1977. So. They already had that understanding that would take place.
If you look at a lot of movies which actually use that type of sense, then people, what's interesting, they look at these movies and then they're trying to bring that into reality also. So it's very interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love the fact that a lot of artistic, creative artists and writers come up with ideas, and then scientists are inspired by it as children, and when they grow up, they make it a reality. That's incredible,
Yeah, the power of imagination. I think another continual theme in a lot of sci-fi movies is not only transhumanism and cloning, but also mutants and people with paranormal abilities. Are you guys familiar with telekinesis in movies? I've
been doing a lot of research on the topic. My dad that I spoke about had a stroke a couple years ago. He lost the ability of his entire side of his body. So I was actually doing some research on the prosthetics you guys were mentioning.
Yes.
They have some recent prosthetics they've developed that go based on just your thought processes and your mental abilities, which kind of touches back on the things they were talking about in some of the science fiction movies we've discussed.
Yeah, there's been a lot of movies recently that touch upon our natural ability to not only remote view things, but free energy, and I think a lot of people are learning more about the human body through watching these movies. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in what they can do with healing. It's been studied for decades on how humans can heal themselves without big pharma medicine, and I think there's a lot of movies that have like a new age type of theme to them, but in general, sci-fi movies are including a lot of paranormal and basically superhuman abilities that we have in real life. Now, there's another movie. I think I should have a assignment for everyone who joins the show. There's going to be a movie assignment where I ask you to watch at least one movie a week that's mentioned on the show. Now, for Tiffany, I think a movie that you'd really enjoy is Blade Runner. Blade Runner was directed by Ridley Scott, and I'm going to go over the movie plot for the movie just so you have some idea of what it's all about.
Okay.
Here, I'm going to describe it here. And Greg and Roma, I'm going to ask you about your thoughts about the movie, whether or not you watched it or not. Okay, so Blade Runner. In a cyberpunk vision of the future, man has developed the technology to create replicants, another word for human clones, used to serve in the colonies outside Earth, but with fixed lifespans. So they limited the lifespan of the humans they cloned in this movie. Now, this movie takes place in Los Angeles in 2019, not too far from here. Deckard is a Blade Runner. That's just another term for police officer in this movie. A cop who specializes in terminating replicants. He kills runaway clones. basically, and
Okay.
he tries to get any clones that don't want to do the will of government operatives. And in this particular movie, there's at least two replicants or clones that run away from their military base, which is on some other planet, I believe. And when they return to Earth, they end up hunting after their makers. They want to kill the people who not only cloned them, but also the ones who are the mad scientists who shorten their lifespan. They don't want to die, and they don't want to just be a slave to the government and then just no longer exist. They don't want to be animals. So anyway, they're basically hunting after the scientists that were involved in the technology that made them. And Blade Runner, who's played by an actor by the name of Harrison Ford, he's hired to go after these clones and make sure they can't kill any of the scientists that were involved in making them. Originally, okay.
Sounds like
oh, go ahead.
Right. I'm sorry. I must have a log on my internet. I can't really. I seem to interrupt you a lot. I apologize. I was just saying that it seemed like an interesting movie, but that would have to conclude my time on the interview today.
Okay.
And I'll have to catch up with you on the next show. It was really great to meet the two of you and discuss some of your ideas. It seems fascinating, and I can't wait to see your comic book come out.
Thanks. It was very nice to meet you. And listen, by all means, follow us on Twitter at Graig Weich, GraigWeich, or at Twitter at Beyond Comics. That would be great. And let us know yours as well. We'll definitely follow along with your adventures too.
Yeah. Now, Tiffany, I know you got to go, but at any time, tell me if you want me to put any links to your work or any pages that you want us to review on next episode, and we'll also make sure you're promoted so people know where they can find your work later. But thank you for joining us. It was very
Absolutely. I appreciate your time. You guys have a great discussion, and I'll be listening in.
All right.
Terrific. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Great. So, Greg and Roma, are you familiar with this movie? I didn't go over the total summary, but basically it is a movie about runaway clones that are used for military purposes.
Yeah, I remember Blade Runner back when I was a little baby, and I haven't seen it in recent years enough to be able to remember specifics to comment, but I would definitely love to see it again. Have you seen it?
Yes, I've watched it at least 2 times, and every time it's more impressive to me. There's a line in the movie where the lead clone, I forget who plays the lead clone, I'll find his name, but anyway, he asks the cop who's hunting him basically to question life, and he describes life somewhat poetically. And I think it's one of the few sci-fi movies that makes you question what life is and where we go after our bodies are expired.
That's great. Yeah, I was just going to say, Darcy. It's so funny. It reminds us of a movie that we saw called Dark City. Have you seen that film?
Dark City. It sounds familiar. Does Dark City have a person who's investigating dreams, child's dreams being stolen?
No. Kind of. The Dark City is this movie. It came out before The Matrix, actually, which is interesting, and it deals with what happens when people fall asleep, and that these aliens are, secretly controlling and resculpting our lives on the planet. It's very hard to talk about it without giving away spoilers.
Right.
So I want to be careful for those who haven't seen it, but anybody who likes Johnny Mnemonic, who likes The Matrix, who likes these type of extremely deep, thought-provoking movies, should absolutely see Dark City, because it's the thing that started it all, and it really makes you question the reality that we're a bunch of, conscious beings, living and existing on a floating blue orb in the middle of space.
Right.
It really explains what we are, what this is, and it makes you think about is life actually, I'm trying to be careful not to give it away, but what it's done for me is it's made me inspired to think about, what are our bodies? Are they organic, human, encased vessels that we are trapped in. I mean, think about somebody like poor Christopher Reeve, who, you know, ended up being a paraplegic before he passed, and, you know, his body became his prison. So, you know, is that kind of like a mobile prison unit that people live in called the human body if they're suffering, if they're not having a good life, you know?
Right.
And is this place, this planet Earth, that we have been possibly banished to, a floating, like, Rikers Island? You see what I'm saying? So in other words, depending on your perspective, you know, and the life that someone is living, some people are in hell, they're tortured, they feel life and existence is actually hell, is where other people who are having a happy life feel it's heaven. So it just depends on one's perspective and how they integrate and interact with life and its obstacles and challenges along the way. So a lot of these movies have made me question things like this, and I know earlier you were talking about the power to heal and some of the intensity behind that. I can tell you from personal experience, one of the things I think that the people are lacking and the medical industry is lacking is that they need to marry the two together. There needs to be a balance, in my belief, a balance between the medical and the pharmaceutical industry that is not the corrupt side of it, but the side that actually helps and cures and saves lives. The pure, that's very small now, but the pure side of it, and trying to combine that with the homeopathic and organic ways that people can naturally heal, and tapping into that side as well. And people need to acknowledge both sides and balance it, you know?
I agree with you. There's a huge push for getting organic food into stores these days, and of course we all know food is medicine. There's no other medicine on earth better than food, and I find that a lot of medicine is incorporating all natural ingredients, which I personally believe that it should. I don't think people should have to go through surgery just to fix their heart. I think there's a lot of foods that help the heart restore itself.
Right, and you know, just to add to that, people who are smokers, if they quit smoking, after 2 years, their lungs completely flush out and clear itself of all the tar and the bacteria in most cases. So, you know, if it's not too late, that is, of course, you know, but that's something that people don't even realize. You know, Roma taught me a lot about water and what's in our water and the supply, and, you know, a lot of fluoride being put in it, and a lot of, you know, ingredients that are not flushed out.
In the past, I was actually having part of the business dealing with water filtration, and when I actually started researching on what type of ingredients they actually add, and all these pharmaceuticals and chemicals in the water, this is you being in shock, because then you actually start questioning, like, I mean, our body consists of 80% of the water, and yes, it is important for people to have a clean water and clean food, you know. So it's like you have to be aware of our surrounding and what type of information we put into our minds and into our bodies, also with the food and water. So
yes, definitely. And one of the important things is getting the right filter system. You know, there's a lot of different things that people can research, but, you know, the truth is that people are tired, they're exhausted, they have very, very difficult, hard lives, they don't have time, they think, to start over, to fix things. Oh, I mean, I've told friends of mine, oh, I can't be bothered with water filtration, says I can't be bothered, you know, eating organic. Well, what's organic? That's ridiculous. What's gluten-free? I don't want to deal with that. And I understand they're tired, they have their own life, they have things they're dealing with, and unfortunately, they don't recognize the value and the importance or the quality of life that can be improved on a daily basis by making some minor changes. You know, for me, most people don't even know this, but when I was, oh gosh, I've always been allergic to eggs and milk as a child. Bad reactions to it as a baby. But I could eat everything else. When I was about 10 years old, I got the chicken pox. And I got very, very sick, and I remember I also got pneumonia. I really got hit when I was a kid like that. And for some reason, afterward, I became very ill 3 times a day. I was about 10 and a half years old or so. And 3 times a day I'd break out into cold sweats. I was suffering. I was in terrible pain, terrible stomach pain. Nobody knew what was wrong with me. My mother, God bless her, found a doctor, ironically named Dr. Cornfield, which is really funny, in upstate New York, or White Plains, I think it was. And he said, you know, they've been doing new studies that show that some people have developed some kind of an allergy or a problem digesting certain gluten products such as wheat, even things like corn. And I was shocked to hear that. So that day, I had a binge out on pizza and cakes and things like that. The following day, I stopped all of it. And the second I stopped, all the pain, the suffering, the cold sweats ended. And I realized I have what they now know today is like a gluten allergy or a celiac, you know, situation that goes on with the digestive system that nobody even knew about. The problem for me when I was a kid with these things is that they didn't have great food replacements. They only had styrofoam, aka rice cakes, right. You know, that we could eat. And you know, for someone like me who, you know, changed their whole diet from wheat to rice, it was very devastating to learn recently that you know, they're saying that there's arsenic. I think 60 to 70 or 80% of arsenic found in rice products now, in brown rice and white rice, coming from, I guess, the soil, I think they said. So that was shocking, and now the FDA is putting out mandatory suggestions that children or babies only have 1 bowl of rice a week, and adults up to 2 bowls of rice a week, but not more, which is shocking that it's in our food. And remember, see, people forget when we eat, you know, if you look inside the body and what it actually is constructed of and what it's made of, we're a giant sponge. The inside of our organs is a giant sponge. We defecate everything out, and what's left is the, you know, what breaks down into a kind of liquid that we absorb or suck the juice out of internally. Everything else we defecate out and urinate out. So that liquid that has those, you know, energy, you know, saving proteins and, you know, different, you know, vitamins in it is what our body sucks in. So if we're eating something that has, you know, these type of poisons in it, such as arsenic, our body's absorbing that. And I really say to everybody, please Google and search this stuff so you can see what we're talking about. This is on the real medical sites. These are not conspiracies. These are on BBC News, CNN, on legitimate, you know, news sources. And the other thing that people don't know, or they suddenly stop talking about, which I have information on, is if you remember a few years ago, suddenly all this terrible outbreak of E. coli was found in tomatoes, it was found in spinach, it was found in all these vegetables and fruits that we were eating. Nobody knew what happened. There was a huge report that showed that the FDA is now, I believe it's the FDA, is now radiating all of the fruits and vegetables that we consume. So that's really disturbing. And when they asked, well, won't that cause cancer? They said, well, not for at least 15 years or so. That was their response. Not for at least 15 years or so. There's no labeling system for this. So even organic, non-GMO vegetables and fruits, and please, if you guys haven't heard about what non-GMO is and GMO, Google it or YouTube it and watch a 2-minute video on it so that you're updated. Because it's our job as consumers and as human beings to educate and inform ourselves and try to lead a more, you know, healthier quality of life so that we don't suffer, you know, later and get sick later. And, you know, people are like, oh, that's not going to happen until I'm in my 40s or 50s or whatever. Hey, that's around the corner for a lot of people, you know. And, you know, if you imagine how you felt as a child and how young you were, you never imagined being an adult. Now you're an adult. So it comes quick, you know. So people have got to really wake up to this stuff and recognize there's no labeling system yet in place for radiated foods. And we're ingesting it. It's the same radiation that they use or similar that the post office uses for anthrax to get rid of mail when they radiate the mail. So, you know, this is terrible to have to ingest this kind of stuff. And, you know, you have to ask yourself what's going on. And also the United States, I have found, has the highest, you know, levels of allergies, as where there's a lot of foreign countries especially like in places like Russia, Latvia, Ukraine, there's no allergies. People don't know what the hell an allergy is because they grow their own food.
And by the way, Russia recently just banned all the GMO products.
Did they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And they actually don't try to expose the Monsanto also. And so they.
On the what?
Monsanto.
Okay, Monsanto. Yeah.
And they actually trying to grow all the natural food, so this way at least they people able to have a normal, healthy lifestyle there. So.
Yes, it's very common for people that with allergies to be told to stay off of bread, cow milk. But in my experience, I've found that goat milk is actually generally good for people who are trying to avoid the foods that they're allergic to. And it's even been said by scientists that you can go to naturalnews.com for this sort of information, of course.
Okay.
I've gone to this site, and I've read several times that a lack of nutrition is a major cause of people's allergies. Now, since we're talking about food, I thought I'd like to hear what you and Roma have to say about the theme in movies where we're heading towards the end of the world, and of course, for the world to end, we have to be running out of food. There's going to be, of course, famine. And what are your thoughts about these apocalyptic films such as Road? I don't know if you've seen that. I'll definitely describe that in a later episode. But since we're talking about sci-fi movies, let's talk about a movie called a movie with a robot. I believe it was produced by Disney. What is the name of that movie? It's a robot movie, and I'll definitely find the title of it.
Iron Giant?
In this movie, the planet Earth has been wiped out basically, and the robots are basically rummaging through recyclable material, and
WALL-E. You're talking about WALL-E?
Yeah, WALL-E. In this movie, WALL-E, the human population has moved on to another planet because or a space station possibly, because the world is no longer able to be sustained by humans. And what are your thoughts about movies like WALL-E and Elysium, starring the person who starred in Born Legacy, Matt Damon, right? He started.
Sure.
Right.
Well,
yeah, sorry. These type of films talk about how the human populations had to move on to places that are healthier for them. So what are your thoughts about these end time movies, apocalyptic themed movies?
Well, the thing that it makes me think about is a very good question. Is at first I thought you meant the Brad Bird movie Iron Giant, which is not by Disney though, but with WALL-E and with Elysium, I think this almost shows in a certain way the planet could go or where people could go, but kind of almost in the opposite sense how we started out, where we didn't have luxuries. There was no bathroom in our house, and even if you speak surprisingly to some young people in their 20s and 30s who grew up, in different countries, they didn't have a bathroom in their house. They had to go outside to a separate place, and and they're young, but just to show how there was no piping system built there. These are new things that have been added. So in different parts of the world, they are living like that currently, and it's something that is a real kind of disturbing source of worry or concern, But hopefully they'll be able to get to a point one day where they're able to get to a place where we can avoid these kind of detrimental apocalyptic type of outcomes.
Right.
One of the things that concerns me is that I think people don't realize, and not to freak anybody out, but the end of the world really isn't the end of the world. The end of the world is the end of someone's life. That's the end of their world. So when someone is dying or suffering, that's their world ending. They don't have to wait for the actual planet to end. So that's why I think it's so important for people to stay in touch and in tune and up to date with eating healthy, drinking healthy, taking care of their body to the best of their abilities. I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm not saying don't have a pizza and some popcorn. Of course, enjoy yourself, but balance the stuff. Don't indulge to the point where you drown your system.
Yeah, and also make sure you take the mind challenges, because a lot of people don't realize they go like on a loop in life. Let's say some certain challenges where you make a lot of mistakes in life and you have to overcome that. Let's say you don't keep repeating, and you don't have to actually these like exhaustion, like when you get exhausted to the point that it's just you don't know what to do with yourself. So it's very important to have your mind very healthy in this case. So
definitely, I agree with both of you. You all definitely seem to be health advocates, and when I listened to you, I felt like I was listening to a naturopath. I have a friend here that's joined us on this particular show, and he was actually someone who helped inspire this network. And we're gonna introduce Bill from Toronto here, and Bill has been very eager on discussing sci-fi movies, mind control, and occultism that's often found in movies. There's a lot of esoteric symbols. But Bill, would you mind telling us about your thoughts related to end times movies, apocalyptic themed movies?
Hi, Bill.
Hi guys. I got on the chat just by luck. I used to have troubles getting onto this thing, but yeah, glad to be with you guys. Nice to meet you. End times, wow. End times in movies. I think some of it is fear, you know what I mean? I think some of it is just to keep people afraid, and although the intention may be good, but I think a lot of it might be fear, and there's a lot of profit to be made from fear, and yeah, that's where I think that's where I stand as far as end times and stuff. Do I personally believe we're in times? Yeah, I do. I think it seems like we are, but I don't know where you guys what you guys were talking about, but I think let's not freak out about it. You know what I mean? We still got to live our lives. We still got to pay bills. We still got to get up and do what we got to do. Is it overwhelming at times? Sure. You know, you can read Revelations and be like, oh my God, you know, this is happening as we speak, but we still got to persevere and keep moving, you know, and like what you were saying as far as like taking care of our health, living a balanced life. I don't know. That's
You know, I totally agree with what Bill was saying too, is that a lot of times people need to know the difference between fear and being careful. Being careful or cautious is fine. Being fearful is not fine. There's a huge difference between the balance of, oh, I'm frightened, I'm scared, oh my God, what am I going to do? Versus, let's find a solution. Let's be smart. Let's be intelligent about it. Let's look for answers. Let's be cautious. Let's be safe, you know, but let's also go forward. And there's that really important balance. There are so many people I've met who some people are terrified to leave their house, you know, and you can't live that way because that's not living. You know, you need to do the best you can to actually have somewhat of a life where you live. You know, if you're stuck in a house for different reasons, that's one thing, but not out of fear. You know, so I think Bill is right. You know, a lot of these movies create or engender a sense of terror in people. It's the same way that the media handles the news and reports, and I think that in movies it's a little bit more sci-fi and fun unless it's dealing with, you know, the reality of what can happen. And unfortunately, in a lot of countries and a lot of places, you know, there is a legitimate reason to be scared. There are, you know, crazy bombings in Israel, and, you know, it's a terrible situation. It ruins one's way of life and their peace of mind. And nobody should have to feel frightened that they're, you know, going to have a restaurant or a school or an art place blow up, you know, when they go to work or when they go outside. And that's a terrible thing. I think a lot of people who live in countries that don't have that problem, you know, forget. You know, I know, like in New York when 9/11 happened, you know, here it was devastating. You know, I'm I think, you know, I have many family who've lived here for generations in New York, and it's just been a shock. Nobody expected it, and daily basis frightened that something was going to blow up everywhere until people got to a point where we said, you know what? Let's be smart, let's be cautious, but let's keep living our lives and not let it control us. That's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely been an advocate of calming people, not fear-mongering, but I think a lot of movies these days are basically trying to make us worry about the possibility that we're going to run out of food, or we're going to have to move to another planet, for goodness sake, just to survive. Are you guys familiar with movies that involve aliens that are actually good? I find a lot of movies show aliens as creatures that want to eat us. Not.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I think E.T. the extraterrestrial had a friendly alien who didn't want to destroy us or take over the planet, but I think it was Hawkins who believes very strongly that were there to be an invasion from species that exists on a different Earth-like planet that people refer to as aliens, that if that was true, if it happened, if they were to, invade, that it would only be to invade, to take our energy or our resources. That was his belief. I remember reading it somewhere online. But, just for a moment to veer a little bit, there's a lot of people who absolutely don't believe in aliens.
Right.
And, and they think that that's ridiculous, and anybody who believes in aliens, is stupid. That's what they think. So I wanted to address it from a different perspective for a minute, and then go back to what you were talking about with, telekinesis and kinetics and things like that, with like Ouija board and stuff. But with this one issue of aliens, for anybody who doesn't believe that aliens exist, here's what I want to ask you to think. If you're watching right now and you don't believe in aliens, why is it so hard to believe that somewhere in the universe, in space, that we cannot see? We can only see a little past 9 planets, right? Or so. So why can't it be possible that there is another place that can inhabit life similar to Earth, and that maybe there are human beings there? Maybe they look a little different. Just like on Earth, we have different looking human beings. Black, white, all different types, Asian, you name it. We're in a collective rainbow of people. That's what makes, it's so nice here, right? So why can't there be more of that on a different Earth-like place somewhere else? Just because they live there and they may have some advanced technology, spacecrafts. We have spacecrafts. My God, if this was the year 1700 and you saw the military planes we have today flying back at that time, they'd think we're aliens, right? So that's why I'm saying it doesn't seem so crazy to think that there's other forms of life or other human beings who just live somewhere else. What if in a couple hundred years we find a planet that we can inhabit, like Mars or whatever, and we're able to just take literally like a space plane or a like a NASA ship and fly over there and colonize, right? It doesn't seem so crazy or far-fetched. It's possible. It doesn't seem impossible, and the truth is nobody can prove or disprove it. So leave it as a possibility. That's what I say to those people. And just kind of expand your mind. Understand. Don't shut things off. A lot of times people, I don't want to deal with that. I don't know what it was. I don't want to deal with it. No, deal with it. Address it. It's okay to not know something. It's okay to be scared, And just moving back to what you were originally talking about, Chad, with regards to, some of the telekinesis and telekinetics, right?
Yeah, paranormal.
Paranormal, right. I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of people have been trying to disprove the Ouija board. Have you seen this, you guys?
Yeah, the Ouija. I believe I saw a Ouija board movie being promoted recently. I think it was called Ouija. I think that was just the title of it. Bill, are you familiar with a Ouija board film?
I know there was a movie called Ouija. Yeah, in my youth I played with it, and yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. Yeah.
It's really incredible, but one of the things I wanted to address publicly about that, and it's been eating away at me, is they've conducted experiments to disprove the Ouija, and they're doing the experiment wrong. There is a flaw in the way they're doing the experiment. No one has addressed it. It drives me nuts. I want to address it so that they can do a real experiment and actually prove it wrong. What they've done is they'll have at least 2 people put their hands on the device. If you guys haven't seen Ouija, not the movie, but I mean the actual
board.
Board game, they feel it's really realistic. What they do is they put 2 fingers on a little device, with the alphabet on a board. They ask a question, concentrate, and then it starts to move and spell out yes, no, or the letters of a word to answer their question.
Right.
And what they tried to prove in the tests is that in doing this experiment, that people's unconscious are slightly moving it. And they don't realize they're moving it because it's unconscious. It's not their conscious moving it. It's something that's going on behind the scenes of their mind, right? So to test it, they blindfolded everybody so nobody could see, and they asked the same questions. And when videotaping it, they had a host ask the questions and watch it. And the people who are blindfolded would ask their own questions, and then the device would move over the board, but it wouldn't be able to spell letters or say yes or no because people are blindfolded. And they said, there's the proof it's fake, because if people were not, and then they could move and spell out the correct answers. When they're blindfolded, the thing just goes all over the board, not spelling anything, right?
Right.
Here's the flaw.
Their intentions.
Right, so they're saying that it's people doing it. Now here's the flaw in the test. Actually, before I tell you, did any of you guys spot the flaw before I say it?
I have not myself. Bill, have you spotted
No,
it?
not at all. No, I'm curious.
Okay, so this is the whole thing. Nobody I've spoken to spotted the flaw. What they're doing is they have proven absolutely nothing with this test, and I'll explain why and how they can prove this. Let's pretend for a moment that it's real. Let's pretend for a moment that somehow a spirit or a ghost or whatever you want to call it is able to possess the hands of the people and use their energy to move the device and spell out yes, no answers or words, right? Okay, if that's true, if it's real, I'm not saying it is, but if it is, then the user, the person that the spirit or entity or energy source is using to see the board through that person's eyes, to use their hands to move it, you are blindfolding the spirit. You see, the people who are conducting the tests are discarding the fact that they need to the human being to see through, to see out of their eyes onto the board. They need the human's hands to touch the device to move it. So what they're doing is they're assuming that the spirit can see without eyes.
I see.
So what I'm saying is blindfolding the users is blindfolding the spirit or entity. That's what I'm saying. So what would be a real test, check this out, is if you have at least two people. Okay, you blindfold everybody except one of them. Have one person's hands touching this side blindfolded. Have the other person's hands touching the device, right? And here's what you do, and this is very important. Have the person, at least who asked the question, now check this out, it's very important. The person who's blindfolded is the one asking a question that only the blindfolded person knows the answer to. Okay? Their partner, who is also touching the device, simply is a watcher. Now, if the board, is there with the letters, and this quote-unquote entity or spirit or whatever you want to call it is now using the other person's eyes to see, it should be able to spell out the answer that only the blindfolded person would know. That would prove that there is some kind of a spirit or entity, because the person sitting next to them who does not have the answer of the blindfolded person could actually discover what the answer is. You see what I'm saying? So again, to reiterate, the blindfolded person asks a question that only they know the answer to. The other user holding on to this device, that person is only watching. And then if they're able to spell out the answer that the blindfolded person knows is correct, then there is something. If it starts zooming off the board or spelling out things that don't make sense or that's not a truthful answer to the person blindfolded, then we know it's a ruse.
Yeah, I personally believe that there are spirits. I think people are pretty much ignorant if they don't believe we have a spirit. There's obviously something moving in us, and something more than our flesh that is living. What are your thoughts about the fact that our bodies in general lose 21 grams of weight after they've deceased? Bill, I'd like to go with you on this question. Have you heard about the weight loss of a body once it's been deceased?
this is, well, we're talking about movies. Wasn't there a movie with Sean Penn and Benicio del Toro?
21 grams.
21 grams.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I found out about it. This is all. I just kind of I'm relying on the movie itself.
Right.
But yeah, I guess I mean.
What was the name of the movie?
21
grams.
Right. I can pull that up on our showcase. There's a little sidebar where I show links to these movies.
It's actually a pretty good movie.
Mm-hmm. 21 Grams is an intense drama movie. Also, got basically a murder mystery as well. But I think that's something we may want to watch as well and review on a different episode. I know I'm mostly talking about sci-fi movies, but death and spirituality is definitely a part of a lot of these movies. Like for instance, 2001. A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Are you all familiar, or have you watched the full length of that film?
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Space Odyssey. Now, what are your thoughts about the end of that movie, where it's the lead character is kind of left in limbo, and there seems to be a baby that appears. That I think confused a lot of people. Were you guys at all confused or enlightened by this movie?
I mean, I know for me, it's been a long time since I saw the film. It came out such a long time ago. For those of you who are new viewers, it did not come out in 2001, but it came out 20 years before or so. But yeah, I mean, I remember the shock about Hal and the AI, the artificial intelligence, taking over and things like that, and it being a very thought-provoking movie. And I wish there were more thought-provoking movies. Honestly, I feel like The Matrix was the last real mind-bending, thought-provoking movie. What do you guys think?
I think to add to The Matrix, I think that Animatrix. I'll show you a link to that pretty soon, but that's spelled ANIMATRIX, and that's supposed to fill in the gaps of the Matrix trilogy. And I think that was even more enlightening than the original Matrix movie. But I agree with you. It's one of the few movies, possibly the last movie, that really made people question who controls reality and or whether or not they're slaves in this world. I think it touched upon a lot of different aspects of life. It's a very deep movie.
Have you?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Bill. No problem.
Have you guys seen the other Wachowski brothers movie, the Cloud Atlas? It was actually pretty good. It deals with time itself.
I didn't see that movie, but tell us more about it, or tell me at least.
It's it's sort of like the way. How can I put this? Basically, what I got from it is that not to identify yourself with time itself, because I can't. You guys have to see it. It's just that, but I got the message that I got from it. I'm sorry, I'm not being can't communicate that very well. But not to take time personally itself. That we only have a certain amount of time on this planet, and certain patterns will be repeated, whether it's our great grandchildren or whether it's our predecessors. That there's certain people we meet, and the way our storylines are interwoven. It's really interesting. Kind of adds to this whole notion of the Matrix and awareness, and just looking at reality from a bigger picture, seeing the big picture. But
yes, Bill is right. It's an amazing movie dealing very strongly in reincarnation and the same soul being reincarnated in different lifetimes, and how that same soul interacts and reacts to its environment in each lifetime. And one of the things that's very fascinating when it comes to reincarnation, it's the book that I'm writing now, the new novel and comic book and film, it's called Ravedactyl. I was telling you guys about that before, based on this character over here. Yes. One of the things about reincarnation and the research that I've been doing on that, there's an incredible, you guys got to watch this on YouTube too if you get a chance, a lot of documentation of little children who are remembering their past lives when they are very, very small, like 3 years old, 4 years old, and they even made a movie about it with Graig Chad, I think a year and a half ago. But what an incredible story to hear a little 3-year-old child, discussing that he had different parents. He had a sister. He fought in the war. A little 3-year-old boy, right? And there's over 2,000 medically, scientifically documented cases of this, they said, on the internet. And again, with, not made up stories, but real documented stories. And there's medical physicians who have, interviewed these children. And it seems that their memory of it all wipes out by age 6. But before that, age 3 and on, they described how they used to live. And one of the parents took their child to the country that they said they lived in and when they fought in the war, and as they're driving, he said, oh, there used to be a bunker there. Oh, there used to be a this there. Now they've changed it. Oh, this is, and he's describing his original name, his parents' name, his sister's name. They went to the library in that country, pulled out the book, and every single thing the kid said was listed in that library, not published on the internet, in the library in a book of records of who lived there. So, that to me is proof that consciousness and awareness and the brain does actually hold the original lifetime of someone who used to be alive. And a lot of times people will say, well, wait a second, if the brain has, dies, or people who get, Alzheimer's and they can't remember, or they have brain damage, how is this possible? But see, I view the brain very differently, and I write about this in Ravidactyl, which I hope to come out with in the near future, which is that what if the brain is actually an organic modem that is sending and receiving signals that's being uploaded to a different source that the essence or consciousness or awareness of self, or soul, if you will, retrieves after the human body dies. So in other words, what if this is a storage device that is sending and receiving signals like your cell phone, like a walkie-talkie or remote controls memories after life when the body dies? So it's this type of thought process that I believe could actually be an explanation for how reincarnation could work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely scientific evidence of DNA memory. DNA memory shows that we can have data stored in from generations, thousands of years ago, running through our blood. And there's also the factor of the pineal gland. The pineal gland is actually part of the brain. Some people call it or not some people, but a lot of people recognize it as the third eye, quote unquote. But that works like an antenna. It actually sends and receives frequencies, and it's more active when people are praying, and as well for people who are dreaming. Bill, what are your thoughts about DNA memory, pineal glands, and as well as what Graig just mentioned, reincarnation? Roma, if you'd like to discuss what your thoughts about reincarnation and DNA memory, please tell us. But I'll start here with Bill.
Yeah, very interesting topic. But is it reincarnation, or is it ancestral memories? Is it just memories?
That's a good question.
Through our DNA, through our genetics. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Who knows? I think that movie with Tom Cruise, was it Oblivion, dealt with that, where he was sort of like recounting his past, and came out a couple years ago, I think, or a year ago or so.
Yeah, that was another movie that included cloning technology, and Tom Cruise played a bunch of clones. Go ahead.
So again, the bigger picture, you know what I mean, and delving into that and self-awareness. I know I like the analogy that Alex Jones made as our lives being just a page in a book, comparing to our lineage of our forefathers and foremothers. We're just another page in a big book, you know what I mean? I really like that. But then again, yeah, how does a little kid, you know what I mean, recount these memories from a whole other, time, right, much less a different culture or a different race or a different geographical location? How's that happen? That would imply that maybe the soul does travel and, you know what I mean, reincarnates itself in a whole other life. Or a whole
and there was actually a recent thing on the internet, literally like a few weeks ago, where there was another documented case of this, and they were showing it, and the little, I believe it was a little boy thought that he was originally an African-American woman in a different life who burnt in a fire, who died in a fire. And the mother researched it, and sure enough found the name of the woman he was referring to himself as, who died in the fire. And to prove it, she printed out multiple photos of different people and said to the child, "Do any of these people look familiar?" And after a few minutes of the child reviewing photos, he says, "Yeah, that's me," and pointed to the photo of the woman who died in the fire, saying that was him.
Amazing.
Yes, and what's interesting about this reincarnation story, I was doing research a lot about that. When it's being addressed, especially it happens with kids usually, adults don't really talk about it, because what happens usually you forget about that later on. So if that's being addressed in the right amount of time, because a lot of these kids, they do have a lot of fears because of what happened in their previous lives. So by age of 10, they tend to forget everything. But they have the recorded videos and all these documentation that actually they talk about from age of 2 to 6 and maximum to age of 10. So
it's a very interesting. Oh, by the way, also just on a side note, if you guys haven't seen a movie with Jodie Foster, Contact, please watch it. It is so. If you guys seen it, I don't want to spoil it.
Great movie.
Yeah, I've watched that movie. Another movie that makes you really think about the possibilities of life on other planets, the afterlife as well. Because I remember in the movie there is a encounter with the lead character's deceased father, and yeah, that's another movie I'd recommend people watch that are interested in the sci-fi genre that includes space travel and even dimensions, going through different dimensions. Now, I'm trying to think of a movie that involves resurrection that's in the same genre of sci-fi. There's, of course, recently there's a movie called Looper, but that wasn't really about resurrection. That was more about traveling through time and finding your past or your earlier self. But as far as resurrection movies, I think Cloud Atlas is one of the last big movies that touched upon the topic of resurrection, and I was interested in watching it as soon as I just heard a brief summary of the storyline. Bill, Roma, or Greg, are you familiar with any recent movies such as Cloud Atlas that talk about resurrection?
Yeah, there's a brand new movie. I don't know if you guys remember this. There was a movie in the 90s with the guy from Footloose, remember? Kevin Bacon, yeah, that dealt with, bringing people back to life after they medically are deceased. And then
wasn't Kiefer Sutherland in it?
Yes, he's in it also. I think Julia Roberts possibly was in it too. It's a big cast. But there's a new movie out that literally just came out, I think, this week.
Right.
That deals with that Tron Legacy, I think it was, or the new Tron movie, I should say. Yeah, and I'm forgetting what the movie is called, but it's the same concept where it's a horror movie, but they're killed and then they bring the dog back to life, they bring the woman back to life, and it just came out now. I'm just blanking on the name of it.
I just saw that on the Yahoo trailers, but that other movie from the 90s, that was Flatliners.
Flatliners, yes, that's right, Bill.
Okay. Yeah, so that sounds interesting. There's an upcoming movie where a dog's resurrected, and as well as someone's wife. I immediately, when I heard those elements, I thought of Pet Sematary, which is a horror movie. But I want to see this latest movie you just brought up, Greg, and I will look for that.
Definitely enjoy, yeah.
For it recently? Sorry, Greg, what?
I was just going to say, I was just going to say that Roma told me to see a movie that apparently was only released internationally and never came. Astral City. Astral. As in astral projection, right? But Astral City. And I haven't seen it yet. She said it's amazing. It talks about heaven and where the soul goes after the body dies and how they look down on people in a different way to think about things. It's only subtitled. that I'm aware of, but it can be watched for free on the internet if you Google
and it also can be a awakening point for a lot of people who live this life and they actually don't understand. They live not conscious of how they act, what they action in this life, and it's actually showing that the guy who is in the movie, he was a doctor and he didn't actually care about his family. He was always about into this work type of mode, and when he died because of some type of illness, and then he tried kind of to fix the issues that he was dealing with, and then he started like recognizing and asking for help to actually improve. And when he went to the different type of worlds, it's amazing how they showing like how he started actually being conscious and started helping people out there, like to be aware of what's happening in our surrounding and how we can actually go to the more spiritual world and remember this life not only about material possession, about how to be greedy about this material lifestyle type, but actually leaning towards who we are as a human being in the end. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I love movies that really challenge people to look past the flesh and bone of people. I think there's actually been a lot of movies, not just sci-fi movies, that make people question what happens to us after we die, and of course,
Right.
there's so many more sci-fi movies I know I'm forgetting right now. I don't want to keep you guys too long. I appreciate that you even wanted to be a part of this broadcast.
Sure.
But to sum things up, what are movies or trends in movies that you'd either like to begin or trends that you'd like to stop? You can talk about both. What are you seeing in sci-fi movies in particular that you don't like, or things that you'd like to continue?
That's a great question. I mean, I tend to think that one of the things that I guess the things that I would love to see more of are things that deal with exactly what we're talking about. I think films that are important. You know, I think the conversations that we're having today is an important conversation. It's something that will get people to think and recognize their awareness of being here. What do they want to do? See, if people think like this, suddenly some switch goes off in them, realize, hey, it doesn't matter if you're driving a sports car or if you're walking. What matters is, that you exist as whoever you have been born to be today. And what do you want to do with that life? What do you want to do with the time you have here on this planet? Right. And, a lot of people, hey, listen, if they just want to do something simple and exist or whatever, that's fine, as long as it's peaceful. I come from a belief system, that I kind of, I give a little nickname to it in my Ravedactyl comic book. I call it the Ravedactylites, as like a cute little, phrase. But the Ravedactylites, the religious belief of the Ravedactylites is, do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt you or someone else. Period. Do whatever you want in this life as long as you're not causing detrimental pain or suffering to someone else or yourself. Otherwise, you're good to go. And that's the belief system, And, for God's sakes, man, people get so hung up on so many different, controlling the way other people live their life. It's sickening. And I would love to see in movies and films a sense of importance behind the movies. So even though I create fiction, I create comic books, right? But what I'm really trying to do is put important, thought-provoking ideas to allow people to come up with their own conclusion. I'm not trying to convince anybody of what I believe in any capacity whatsoever. I just want them to think. All I want them to do is just think and question, whatever works for their belief system, go for it, man, And that's a very important way to live. I'm very supportive of people who have different ideas or things that are different than the way. I've learned a lot in my life, how I started, what I used to believe, what I started to believe, where I really came awake, woke up, and what happened, and trying to understand life and existence and how long we're here, you know. And I think to try to better answer your question, the one thing that I am very sad about is how quickly things disappear from people's consciousness.
Right.
When we were younger and a movie came out, you know, again, like Star Wars, you know, oh my God, that's all people spoke about for years. You know, waiting for, if you wanted to see Superman, if you wanted to see, and I refer to hero-based movies because they seem to touch the largest audiences. You know, children and adults alike seem to gravitate toward this genre. So in movies like that, even The Matrix, which was an R-rated movie, which is crazy. It shouldn't have been an R-rated movie, but it was an R-rated movie. And, you know, that type of movie makes you think. And, you know, one of the things about today is that movies come and go in 1 to 2 weeks, and they're gone. And people don't remember it. They on to the next thing. There's such a saturation of so many movies and so many types of things being spun out over and over again.
People don't have time to think about, sit down and think about and talk about, because everything is internet, everything is phones, like everybody.
They're indulging.
Yeah, everybody's kind of going away from reality, and we all kind of going into a virtual world, and this is where the balance is being lost. It's like the communication is being lost. I mean, yes, we have this technology to use it for our own health, but at the same time, we have to think about how we're getting lost and addicted to the technology, where we don't know where reality and where is the virtual world, because we just get sucked into it. So it's very important to create the balance in the life, so where we actually can absorb all this knowledge, technology, but also like store it properly, so we don't get lost in this world.
And you know, one of the things that I would implore people to watch is The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. If you guys haven't seen it, one of the most important movies I think that was made. And you know, again, for those who haven't seen The Truman Show, stop what you're doing and go out and see The Truman Show, and stop what you're doing and go out and see Dark City. But The Truman Show has the most important line, to answer your question, Chad, at the end of the movie. I'm not spoiling anything. Don't worry, guys. I'm not spoiling it. But at the end of the movie, okay, you know, everybody is sitting at their TV monitors watching what's going to happen to this guy, Truman, right? Every second, it's like a soap opera for them. They're watching, they're watching, they're watching. Then the big, giant, surprise, climactic ending happens in the film for the audience in the movie watching The Truman Show. And again, just to reiterate for those who haven't seen it, there's a guy who's, you know, who's being filmed as a reality show for his whole life. This is the opening of the movie, and he doesn't know he's in a reality show. Jim Carrey plays Truman, right? And what happens is that everybody around the world watches The Truman Show to see what's going to happen from the time he's born to the time he's an adult. Everybody's been hired as actors. Only he doesn't know he's in the reality show. And at the end of the movie, all the people in the audience who are watching and have been fans of The Truman Show are watching. The big surprise ending happens. They say, oh my God, everyone's freaking out. And then they say, what else is on TV? And they change the channel. And that last line shows the attention span of everybody, and how, you know, it really talks about today's life, that, you know, they're riveted, they're entertained, they're indulging, they're absorbing, and then, oh, that was crazy. Hey, what else is on TV today? And they're on to something else.
The thinking and the creativity is being taken away from kids, especially in school. Like, people are not being creative as they used to be.
You know, it's funny that she says that, because that's one of the things I was talking to her about a few weeks ago as an artist, as a kid with creativity, and I love your opinion on this, guys. One of the big things that inspired me to make the costumes and some of the suits that you see here in my studio and all this kind of stuff, you know, is the fact that we didn't have access to it as kids. So when I wanted a Spider-Man costume, you know, I'd get this little cheap plastic mask that covers my face with big eye holes cut out, and like a suit that says the words Spider-Man on the chest, if you guys remember these old costumes as children, right? Yeah. And it drove me crazy as an artist that, and again, I was like 8 years old, and I was like, this is wrong. I want a Spider-Man suit with the white eyes and the real detailed chest. So I would take fabric and cut stuff and make it, and and try to produce these things myself as a little boy. Right. But now, if you guys walk into Toys R Us, or you walk into any toy store, the costumes are authentic, identical movie suits, right? Even the toys and action figures are so highly detailed, there's no need or requirement or inspiration from a child anymore to make the thing, because it's made for them already. So that represents, I think, a lot that's happened, not only in the improvement or technology of what's going on today, which is good, but what's negative about it is it stops the creativity of children from having a desire to make it look more accurate, to make it look better. They can go out and buy it now for, $20, and it's like, it's, I think, reducing the inspiration and spark of kids possibly to feel an urge or desire to make it look that way. If I was able to get an identical Spider-Man suit as a little boy, I would have never made one. Maybe I wouldn't have made the costumes you see today. So I really wonder what your guys' opinion is on that, and and what you think about the way they're improving. Even the level of detail of action figures, so realistic, they're so well sculpted. It's taking away the artistic design, and I always remembered like how toys or the likenesses of actors had its own style as a toy, like Mego action figures, if you guys remember that, and some of the superhero dolls we'd play with as children, looked its own style, but we knew it was the same as the actor it's supposed to be, But now it looks so movie accurate. I mean, it's unbelievable, So I just was wondering what your take is on that.
Well, Bill, what are your thoughts about the advanced movie props and movie suits in general? I'm sure you're familiar with Spider-Man. Personally, I think the Spider-Man outfit has definitely just pretty much replicated the suit in the comics. It probably even makes it look a little bit more flashier. But what are your thoughts about what Graig just asked us about the suits and the costume designs?
You touched on it. It's about consumption, and it's about an ever-increasing flux of consumption and getting out there to buy these, superhero whatever outfits and stuff like that. But more so, creativity is being killed. I look at my friend's 3-year-old niece. They're not drawing with crayons. They're on the tablet. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Wow.
They're moving through already. They're not even watching television. The 3-year-old's not even watching TV with moving pictures. It's more like she's watching these little kid shows on YouTube, but she's just like flipping through them on the tablet. She's not drawing. I remember myself. I used to draw little, houses and cars and the sun, entire themes and stuff, and you get inspired. But yeah, I worry. I think it's I don't know. I think we're. I don't know. I'm running out of things. I can't. There's so much things that are going through my head, but I can't communicate it very well.
Well, no, I mean that's a very good point, Bill. I mean, I tend to think that I also found out that they stopped teaching script writing, in school, so people don't have to learn how to write script anymore. And one of the things is I think we may be the last generation to use a pen and paper. Because people are it's just becoming obsolete. Mm-hmm. It's scary. I mean, it's like my belief system is, again, that I really think it's important to have a marriage of both, balance, so that if technology goes down, if you have an artist who's only learned how to do CGI graphics and doesn't know how to draw with a pen and paper, and the tablet loses power and it has no battery, or there's a power outage and the battery runs out for a week, people can't draw. They won't know what the hell to do. We come from a generation where if there is a power outage, we know what without electricity, when there were power outages, and we knew how to do things by hand. I remember in 2004, there was a huge power outage here, on the East Coast in New York, for 3 days. And the only thing I had was a radio with batteries in it to listen to as a backup. And if I didn't have that, I would have absolutely no update as to what's going on or when the outage would end. had no update to know when it would happen until it was fixed. So that's the important, I say everybody, have one radio with batteries in your house. Just have it. I'm not saying there's gonna be an outage or whatever, but it's nice to know that you can get through it and be okay. Have some, freeze-dried food or whatever, or things that don't require that. Have some stuff where you can just survive without it. A lot of people go a little overboard with that. But I'm saying have one little. Kids today are not going to, learn how to draw on a pen and paper because, like you said, everyone's getting a tablet. And I was giving a lecture at the School of Visual Arts at the university, and there was no pen. Nobody had a pen. I remember that. And then I remember I taught a class at the Studio Elementary School for little children, and the 6-year-olds had cell phones, which was amazing. I mean, at 6 years old, to have access to anything in the world, internet, phone, if the parents, hopefully the parents put some restrictions on there for little kids, but it's unbelievable. And, just for some of you guys who are unfamiliar, too, with just talking before about the action figures and stuff, I just quickly wanted to show you, just to give you an idea of how detailed some of the toys were. Here is He-Man, if you guys remember He-Man. Do you guys remember this here?
Yes.
Right, let's see if we can get this on camera. Are you seeing this here?
I see that.
Hold on, let me see if there we go. Do you guys see He-Man, right? All right, so this is the toys we had back in the 1980s, okay? So here are the toys that we have today, just to show you the level of detail and how unbelievable the sculpture work has actually become on there. This is like some of the new figures, but if you try to zoom in so you can see the face likeness, it's incredible.
Definitely more lifelike, yeah.
That's the action figures that they have today. This is the actor who they have. I don't know if you can see like Iron Man over here. Let's see if the camera's getting it right, and it has the Robert Downey Jr. face inside.
Right.
And just, it's really awesome that they've been able to get to this level of sculpture work and have such incredible artists, make this stuff. But at the same time, again, it's taking away the stylized creativity of what a simple toy used to look like, And I would love them to have both. So, that's kind of the thing. But just to conclude the point,
right.
A lot of times people... if you see the old Star Wars figures that they made back in the day compared to what they have today, there's no need for those because we have this really cool super movie accurate style. So the creativity is being given to us, just like, reality shows or TV, everything's being fed to us so quickly, it stops people from just thinking for a moment. Right. Phones are ringing, sounds are going, people are going bananas with it, and there's been a movement of people to actually turn off their ringers on their cell phones and just go to their phone maybe 4 times a day to check it versus every second to see who's texting and Facebooking back and who's doing all this stuff. It's been an indulgence, and they're drowning themselves. They're not giving a balance. It needs to be balanced a little better, right?
Definitely.
I agree. Wow, you really touched upon a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. So you summed up what you wanted to see in sci-fi movies and things that you think may need to be taken back a little bit. Some things that you think have gone a little bit too far as the details and how things are just given to us on a platter. Or our imagination's not really being provoked enough.
I remember also that, like, my mother, when I was a little boy, like 8, 9 years old, when we had a TV, I had a limit. She said I have an hour and a half of television a day, not more. And, I was pissed off. I was like, I want endless TV. What the hell? But as an adult, I think that was brilliant to limit my TV watching and my time looking at lights from a screen in my eyes to be limited to 90 minutes a day, forced me to have to find other means of entertainment through creativity, through reading, through drawing, through writing, whatever. It forced me to have to do it. And, it's going to be a very difficult thing to enforce that now with the tablet and internet, because people don't even speak on the phone anymore, and it's a whole different world. So I think that it should be, I think it's great, but there has to be parameters to help balance the children who don't know what balance is. Children will indulge. They want, they take. They don't know it yet.
Right.
But how fun was that show when you got to watch it for that hour and a half? How exciting and fun was it, right?
The best.
Right?
It was great. He's right.
Rather than having the Cartoon Network on 24 hours a day, and you just, you know, you could go just crazy watching cartoons over and over again. It loses its value. It no longer becomes fun.
Yeah, you know, actually, it's very true. And you know, I tell you, I spoke to a friend of mine in France, and you know, Morgan is out there, and all the women are topless on the beaches, right? So he told me when I was younger, and we go, if he saw a Playboy magazine with women who have no shirts on, it meant nothing to him. He's numb to it because it's not a big deal. It's like a guy taking off his shirt. Who cares? Because they're so used to it, they're desensitized by it. So using that as an example, it's the same thing with TV and tablets. People are becoming desensitized to everything, you know? I mean, the fact that a 3-year-old could go on their friend's phone or their friend's computer or whatever and pull up a full, you know, pornographic film, you know, if they wanted to or discovered it, is disturbing, you know, because how a 3-year-old would interpret what that is or what that means and what's behind it, you know, I think it's dangerous if they don't put proper parameters for children on it.
That's true. Yeah, there's actually really not much security on the internet in particular, and it is numbing minds. I think a lot of people don't understand that after an hour or more of television or internet movie watching, their mind actually goes into a dream state, or their brain it operates as if it's dreaming, and you do lose track of reality. And I think Roma brought up the fact that people are not seeing the lines between their fantasy and reality being blurred. So there's definitely a mix of people that are kind of not very intelligent as far as wanting to deal with the important things in reality. Like, for instance, we talked about essential health remedies and the truth about how our bodies work, the paranormal activities such as telekinesis and even the afterlife. We discuss some deep topics that I think are very meaningful, but a lot of people that are playing adventure games and watching movies that are really leading nowhere but into a predictable ending. I think a lot of people have go into a movie knowing who's going to be the winner, who's going to end up together in the end, maybe a romantic couple. But I think a lot of movies are just very predictable, and they don't really challenge the viewers to think of alternative endings or alternative scenarios. But Roma, quickly, please tell our audience what you want to see in movies, or what you'd like to see less in movies.
Well, definitely more depth, where they have more dialogues for people to actually think about and take some important information, like all this graphic and all these designs, the custom. It's great, but we need more depth into the movies, like where people just have like deep conversation, deep dialogue, where people can actually expand their mind, because all what we see lately, it's like pictures, everything in movements, lots of movements. That's where we kind of leave our minds aside and we don't think about anymore. And that's where danger happens. That's where a lot of people, they commit a lot of dangerous acts in life, because they don't realize already where's the reality and where is the illusion, where they get lost in this case.
Yeah.
So
That's
It's a very good point, yeah.
Now, Bill, quickly, if you want to, please tell us things that you'd like to see in future movies, or even things that you'd like to see less in movies.
Okay, the things that I'd like to see more in movies would be more depth, as you said yourself, and I'd like to see characters with redeeming qualities. You know what I mean? I'd like to see storylines where a character goes through something, you know, whether it's science fiction or drama or comedy or whatever. You know what I mean? I want it to be an organic story, which I think ties to your point as far as there's a lack of good writers out there. You know what I mean? I noticed that the story lacks, the characters in the story lack redeeming qualities where they hit rock bottom and they find a way to redeem themselves, to resurrect. You know, you see all these movies from the 70s, 80s, and some into the 90s. You know, some of the movies that I like let's say like Taxi Driver or something like that, or any of these Scorsese movies like Raging Bull or The Godfather. These are real characters that have their moments where they hit rock bottom, but then they somehow they're at least working with themselves. They're trying to be better somehow, even though we might judge them as being completely, you know, pawn scum, whatever. But I like to see more redeeming qualities. I like to see more organic storylines and less of this commercial, predictable storylines. Like, you know what? And I'm a hypocrite because I'll go see Fast and Furious this summer because I want to entertain myself with mindless, you know what I mean, driving. But the last time I saw it, it dawned on me. I go, it's the same storyline. They're just driving cars, except in different countries. You know what I mean?
You know, that's true, Bill.
And kudos to them. But you know what? You know, Fast and Furious. What are we on now? 7 or 8 or whatever. I lost count. You know, the next one could take in Russia. The next one could take in. They already had Japan. They had Brazil. Why not Canada? You know what I mean? As boring as we are. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's the same storyline, just a different continent, same old dialogue. Now I'll go see it. I'll waste the money because I want to be, you know, entertained. But less of that. There, like you said, there should be balance. You know what I mean? There should be a balance. I'd like to see more organic storylines versus the mindless, fluffy stuff.
You know, what's interesting, too, is that, you know, even though we talk about this stuff, I don't want people to misunderstand. I love my reality, mindless TV also, you know. For me, it's like a vacation from thinking, and we need that. That's balance. That's a normal balance. Listen, if people are enjoying watching, you know, fun reality shows, whatever it might be, that's cool. That's all right. Hey, relax your mind, have entertainment, enjoy. The mind needs a break. It needs to be able to just have fun. That's very important, too. Again, the problem that I'm worried about is people who only watch 100% reality TV, nothing else. That's where the balance shifts and it gets off kilter. What's interesting, too, you know, I'm excited because I've been writing these scripts for the past couple of years that we're preparing to release. And one of the things that I've tried to do in writing, I studied with you know, Sid Field is an amazing, you know, God rest his soul, he's an amazing writer. He's one of the people who taught James Cameron how to write screenplays. Mm-hmm. And in studying Sid Field's work and understanding the structure of a script, I learned that it's not enough to just have an idea. You have to know how to put it in the proper format and have the proper pacing. Just like a human body is constructed with a skeleton inside, you can stretch it, you can make it taller, shorter, thicker, wider, whatever you want to do, you know, but there's always a skeleton in there, and it has to have that certain rhythm. So, you know, combining that technique with some of the ideas I've had in the screenplays that I've written, the things that I loved about movies, especially in Matrix and especially in the original Star Wars, was there's always a question asked, and you have to think. The answer's not given to you right away. And in every script that I've written, I've tried to write something where the viewer or the reader or the watcher is going to ask these questions. It's going to make them think. I asked the question, I put it out there, now they're thinking. They're trying to solve this mystery. All my scripts like somewhat of a mystery in it, a puzzle that needs to be decoded, and it's not till the very, very end that I reveal why that question was asked, how it connects, and what's going to happen. And it also brings all the characters to another level. So in the script that I was telling you about earlier with Codename Justice, you know, this character's a regular human being, you know, who puts on this, you know, suit of protective, you know, body armor to go and find the truth behind all the conspiracy theories and to try to uncover what's fake, what's not. You know, are we corrupt in our own government, in our own world, throughout the country? Who's running things? You know, it was an incredible discovery that the person who was involved so highly in the green movement actually owns an oil company. If you guys research that, it's really shocking. So this character represents what we live in every single day in our life. Now, on the opposite, end of the spectrum is this character, Ravidactyl, which deals with philosophy, life beyond death, where the spirit goes afterward. This is like the cover of it. You can see over here. That we'll be coming out with in the near future of the comic and stuff like that.
I see that. Yeah, the screen went black for about 5 seconds, but could you show the cover one more time? It's very detailed.
Oh, sure. Let me try to get like a better shot of it for you over here. See if I can open this up.
Okay. Yeah,
this is this over here is the first one. Let me try to get the camera on here.
Okay.
That's Gakito, if you guys can see Gakito.
Yes.
And then Ravidactyl is back here. This is the comic book that we have. This is hard because the camera doesn't have a reverse on it, so I can't turn the screen.
Oh, this would be great.
But if we can see it here,
for
this
show,
is
links to your
Ravidactyl.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, very good.
Is that coming out?
Yeah, Bill, do you see that? Okay.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. And this one over here is codename Justice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness. I'm waiting. I'm going to turn off my my view so I'm not blocking it from the audience.
Sure. Let me just put this back. So here again is the cover. That's Gakito, the current comic book that's out right now. And the next one over here is the upcoming book, Ravidactyl.
Wow.
See that? And then the other one I'm drawing and writing here is codename Justice. So I hope that's coming out on the camera okay. So that's what I've been working on,
Awesome.
Thanks, guys, And, but, I just want to take everything that, we've been talking about and kind of put it in the hands of, kids and adults alike so that they could, really open up to some of this stuff, because I really believe it's what's missing in the world today, especially with, again, this saturation of, kids growing up on, like, the Bad Girls Club TV show or Kardashians or whatever, and that's fine if you balance it like we said before, but if it's 90% of what they're watching, it becomes dangerous, so hopefully this will keep their attention and touch the people it's meant to.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed seeing your work. That's some really homemade, the homemade products. This is a good example of prop design and costume design, as well as the comics, the printed work. It's very it's rare for me to be able to see this sort of stuff.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that you showed your work. And Bill, I think I don't know if I told you this or not, but part of our show was also to talk about cloning technology, and I believe I even put witchcraft in the title of our show. There's a banner for our show I made. But quickly, what are your thoughts about witchcraft featuring in movies? This will be our last round of discussion about a particular topic. But what are your thoughts? I'll start with you, Bill. What are your thoughts about witchcraft being portrayed in movies as either good or evil? You can go ahead. Tell us your opinion.
As long as it's kept in an objective perspective, I have no problem with it. If it is used as indoctrination, and a certain saturation, and yeah, then I have a bit of a problem with it. Given the way I grew up, Catholic and all this, I'll have a bit of a problem, but I'm not going to be totally closed off to it, because it's up to the individual to have that choice if they want to, indulge themselves in movies featuring witchcraft or anything like that. It's up to the individual. But for myself, I think it's too much of it. You know, I'm really referring to like Harry Potter and all this stuff and everything that came out of that, and you know, the Twilight series and all this stuff, and this glorification of witchcraft. I'm not really down with it, but at the same time, do I want to eradicate it completely? No, because it's a form of artistic expression and it has its place. Some people like horror movies, some people like witchcraft. It's up to the individual to decide what they like. So that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, I totally agree, you know, with what Bill said too, because I think that even though, you know, certain things like, you know, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, even though it may not be some people's taste, hey, it's great to have it because it is some people's taste. So, you know, to be able to have this balance, you know, and have an eclectic array of choice is very important. And that's one of the things I think in society that's really harmed not only like the movie industry, but people in general. Wars have taken place. Killing of human life has taken place because someone doesn't believe what somebody else believes, and that's sick to me. That's crazy. You know, this world is to be expressive, right? So express what you believe as long as it doesn't hurt somebody or yourself. And you know, hey man, have a difference of opinion. You know, if your religion is Jedi, is Santa, is whatever the hell it is, whatever, man, it's fine. If it works for you, cool. That's great. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's very important to just be open. And I love to hear different people's opinions and different religions. Just because it may be different than mine or different than what I think has nothing to do with it. It's awesome. Let it be colorful. Let the world be a giant rainbow of interest, you know?
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. How fun is it to have a debate, an intellectual debate, a friendly debate? You know, I don't know. It's boring to be surrounded by a bunch of yes men, yes women. You know, let's challenge ourselves. But yeah, you know, I'm not going to be on some crusade to convert everybody. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. You know, and listen, you know, I understand people want to have camaraderie, but you know what? If you know, you will naturally gravitate toward people who believe what you believe or who come together, and people who don't. And if they don't, it's totally fine. You don't have to convert the world, you know? Even like the work that I create, you know, it's for some people. Some people hate it. Some people love it. You know, it's not for the people who don't like it. It's for the people who do like it, you know? And maybe some of the people who don't like it might know somebody who would, right? So, you know, it's just for everybody to investigate and share and check out. And, you know, especially, you know, in the kind of field I'm in, a lot of, you know, competition. There's a lot of jealousy. Why? Why is that? Let's all help each other. Let's promote each other. Let's try to get each other out there. Let's try to, you know, make a team. It doesn't hurt the sales of what they're trying to do. It's just trying to spread the word in a good way. So, you know, I agree with what, you know, you both said, and I think it's very prevalent to be able to, you know, have these kind of debates. In fact, there was one debate that I had. I ended the debate, which was really funny. Well, and it was the debate was about you know, whether or not God exists, and people were literally about to strangle each other in this debate. And don't you tell me, and how dare you, and God does it, no he doesn't, and yes he does it, oh my God. It was like watching the Holyfield Tyson fight, okay, and the whole thing. And I'm listening to this, it was a psychology, you know, debate I was in, and I'm just listening to everybody. And it was going on for 1 hour. So after an hour, I raised my hand. They said yes. They said, okay, Graig, you haven't said anything. I said, I just wanted to say one thing. They said, what's that? And I said, before you guys debate on whether or not God exists, shouldn't you guys first figure out what God is? Debate over. That was it. Because everybody's definition of God is different. Some people believe God is a man with a white beard. Some people believe God is the universe. Some people believe God is our souls combined together as one. You
Google Plus has froze the screen, so I missed about 10 seconds of what you're saying about how people have different interpretations of the image of God. Yeah, I think it's just freezing on Roma and Graig's screen right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting
might be
topic.
Google Plus. Might be a technical issue with Google Plus.
Right.
But yeah, I just like to throw in my interpretation of witchcraft in movies. And personally, I think for the most part, witchcraft is shown as like some magical, wonderful thing, and that's due in part by the Disney company. They definitely like to show magic as being a good thing, or magic also being used by evil sorcerers and whatnot. But in general, I think witchcraft doesn't have a very good image in to the masses. I think a lot of religions are definitely against witchcraft, and they don't even have anything good to say about witches in general. But I think witchcraft is going to be featured in a lot of movies in the future, and I think a lot of people are going to debate whether or not there is a such thing as a good witch. I think most people grow up seeing witches as bad people, and but like you guys said, censorship is not good overall, and for artists, they should be allowed to share what they interpret a reality as, and with that said, I think witchcraft is being popularized by a lot of corporations because they want people to discuss the good and evil aspects of witchcraft. And yeah, it's for most parts. I think it's for entertainment use only. But there's a lot of people that believe
Very
magic.
true. Yeah, definitely.
They're very passionate about illusions. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Chad. Before my phone lost signal for a moment, but like I was saying before, that whole debate ended when we said, everybody's definition of God is different. How they believe what God is different. So, going back to people who do witchcraft, a lot of them don't even believe in God, right? It just depends on what they believe in or what they're worshiping to. And there's a misconception about people in regards to, are they evil? Are they the devil? Are they this? Are they that? And all these labels that are being thrown out there. In my life, I've met, a couple of people who practice that, at friends' parties or things like that, and and they were like, yes, they worship, witchcraft and things and all this different kind of stuff, and it was interesting to hear their take, and how they live, but everything they did caused no harm, never wished bad on anybody. The people that I had met, it's almost like sometimes people are trying to find themselves, right? So sometimes people belong to the Star Wars Club, the Book Club, the Witchcraft Club, the Goth Club, whatever it is, again, as long as they're not hurting people, right? So I think in movies, they want to portray it always as evil and this and that and all these different kind of things because it's more entertaining that way. If they presented a good witch, then you'd have the show Bewitched. From the from back in the 60s and 70s and 80s when they showed the reruns, and it's a cute show, but I think the scary horror movies and witches, the things that try to sell and make movies, but I love what you guys were talking about. I think this is one of the most entertaining kind of video blogs and stuff, so I really hope that people will comment and write their thoughts as well. I'm curious to hear what are thinking who are watching as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys contributed so much to the show. I mean, I didn't expect it to be as entertaining as it was to me, as it did become. So I'd like to talk about what may be featured on our next episode of the Movie Talk Show.
Okay.
It could be a weekly show. I'll see if I can get some more hosts to join us. And I'd really like for Bill, Graig, and Roma, please, you're always welcome to come on the Movie Talk Show and be a co-host with me, and also talk about your own work. definitely promote yourself. We want our audience to be able to see what type of work you're passionate about besides movies. For next episode, I'd like to talk about comic books, and I think a lot of people these days are interested in comic book stories, and sci-fi is a big part of the comic books industry. So stay tuned for the next episode of the Movie Talk Show. I'm going to try to have it scheduled for the same time next week. And if you guys are available, we can talk about the different themes that are been seen in comic book related stories and in comic book movies in general. We can also talk about the phenomenon of television, how television movies, in particular Games of Thrones, Breaking Bad, how those stories have kind of eclipsed a lot of the general movies that have been coming out. I think a lot of people are more interested in seeing what's coming out on HBO and AMC. Those channels are definitely making quality movies on their television programs. But yeah, so next week I'd love for you guys to join me for a comic book movie related episode, and I really want to show a great appreciation for Tiffany Grandstaff for hosting the show with us, and Roma and Greg for joining us, and finally Bill. Thank you so much for sticking with the show and coming on tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, we'll see you possibly next week. I'll try to have a daily movie idea show as well. The movie idea show should be the next show that I launch after this program ends. Thank you again, Greg and Roma.
Hey, thank you guys so much. It was such a pleasure to talk with all of you, and Tiffany before, and Bill and Chad. Have a terrific time. And again, if anybody wants to stay tuned, make sure to subscribe and watch Chad's channel and us at BeyondComics.tv.
Yeah, and if there's any other sites you'd like to recommend, even sites that you consider good for looking up information about other movies. Do you prefer Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb? Which is your favorite?
What about your site?
Yes, Chat is actually contributing to page Love Across the Universe also.
Love Across the Universe on Facebook.
Post a lot of interesting links, entertainment, health things, whatever is people can contribute to and spread the spiritual message and all these interesting news sources.
That would be great. And Chad, are you going to be able to upload this to YouTube as well for the YouTube viewers to be able to see through Google+?
Yes, after the broadcast ends, this episode will be uploaded to YouTube if everything works well. Yeah, it's going to be available, and if you want to, you can share it on your channel.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Awesome. Okay, yes, Bill, is there a or any websites you'd like to promote on the show? Even sites that specifically deal with movies. What's your favorite sites?
I just go to Yahoo trailers, and I just check out the trailers there on yahoo.ca. That's about it.
All right. I'm gonna put in those links to the pages and sites that were mentioned in this broadcast. At least
terrific. And by the way, just for a lot of you guys who are interested in movies, and I'm sure there's going to be a big debate about this, a couple of days ago they just released the uncensored, very dark Power Rangers movie short film.
Oh my gosh, yes, I remember that, yeah. Oh, that was a very intense short movie, yeah.
Very intense, and Saban Entertainment pulled down the film. It had some nudity in it, and they are currently fighting to have the censored version pulled down as well, which is very similar, but there's no nudity. Very violent, very interesting take on it. YouTube actually, they had the movie director's YouTube channel deleted their channel because of it. So it's a very interesting thing to check out. It's very very interesting.
Oh yeah, I definitely recommend that one. That particular video was very, very fun to watch, and I found it featured on a site called World Star Hip Hop. I was very surprised to see it on there, but there is a huge following for Power Rangers old shows in particular. And for a reboot, that would be perfect for that particular scenario to be on the big screens.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely 100% what the adult, you know, viewing watchers who grew up with Power Rangers would love to see. I know Jason David Frank, who played the Green Ranger and White Ranger on the show, he was offered the role in the short movie, but turned it down because he said he was concerned that it was cutting out the new kid audience, which I understand because this is a very, you know, R-rated version of the film. But very interesting, and what an interesting debate too as to whether or not they should release an adult version of Power Rangers or a kid version. Very interesting, right?
Yes, that is definitely debatable, and something I think a lot of people do want to see produced into a major film or a major movie project. For me, I think the best site to go to find out about movies would be ScreenJunkies.com. ScreenJunkies.com is known for making honest trailers, which are comedic interpretations of popular movies. You can find them on YouTube.com/ScreenJunkies. They oftentimes have a program called Movie Fights, where they incorporate the Popcorn Talk Network. I think I named them correctly. But anyway, the Popcorn Talk Network with Maria Menounos and other people involved in their company, and the Schmoes. I have to get these names for our next episode. I definitely want to promote the work that they do. But definitely check out the Screen Junkies. You'll definitely find links of different movie sites that are interesting, and they touch upon different topics that we discussed tonight as well. There's a lot of things that are relatable on their channel. But thanks again, guys.
And, you know, also
broadcast. So go ahead.
You know, I was going to say, if people go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/BeyondComicsTV, they'll be able to see I posted the link to the uncensored version of the movie as well, and I kind of tell a lot of interesting tidbits about it. So, you know, just Google my name in YouTube, and they can find it, Graig, Graig, Weich, Weich, and they can see it right up there. But yeah, just like you were saying, Chad, a lot of good movie sources. IMDb, InternetMovieDatabase.com is very good to learn about the upcoming films. You know, and AMC Movie Talk. So a lot of the things that you said as well, very, very good stuff to check out.
Oh, definitely, and I agreed on a lot of the issues that you brought up about movies. What needs to be included into movies. You all brought up very good topics, and I just want to get this correct. The name of your company's website, Beyond Comics TV, is it BeyondComicsTV.com?
Oh no, it's the website is BeyondComics.tv, and on the YouTube channel, they could just search my name, Graig Weich, Graig Weich.
All right, awesome. The details to your company and your websites, as well as your channel, will be included right next to this video, and I'm going to upload it in about 3 minutes. Thank you again, guys.
Great.
Broadcast is ending in about 3 seconds. Thanks again. Hopefully, I'll see you next week.
Absolutely.